Hey there. We spend so much of our lives chasing this idea of a good life. But what if we've been looking in all the wrong places? Today, we're going to dig into some really hard-earned wisdom, stuff that's actually backed by decades of research to find out what it really takes to build a life that feels meaningful. So, let's get into it.
We see this everywhere, right? We look at someone's success or their wisdom, and we think, wow, I want that. But we totally skip over the thousands of quiet, repetitive, and, let's be honest, kind of boring days that made it possible. This quote just nails the huge disconnect between the life we admire and the daily grind we're actually willing to put in.
Seriously, just take a second and think about that. You hear stories from people at the end of their lives, and what's the one thing that haunts them? It's almost never their failures. It's the chances they didn't take, the life they were too afraid to live for themselves. So the whole point of this is to figure out how we can avoid that exact same regret.
So where do we get so off track? Well, it usually starts with chasing these illusions, these ideas about success and happiness that society sells us, but that, in the end, just don't deliver.
Oh, this is a big one. This pressure to be remembered, to leave some giant monument behind, it's a trap. It makes us trade in actually living for just performing. We start editing our own story for some future audience instead of just being in it. And all we end up with is this hollow statue of ourselves, built on a foundation of pure exhaustion.
And here's the really funny part. We build up these walls and say, well, that's just who I am. We create this fixed identity based on who we used to be. But real authenticity? It's not a thing you find. It's a process. It's something you build and rebuild every single day. The second we stop changing, we're not being authentic anymore. We're just playing our greatest hits.
So you can see the problem. We're stuck chasing this perfect, permanent legacy on one hand and this fixed, unchanging identity on the other. But what if the real answer isn't about any of that? What if it's somewhere else entirely? Well, for almost a century, one incredible study has been tracking people's entire lives to find out. And this is where it gets really interesting, because we're moving past opinions now. We're talking about cold, hard data from one of the longest studies of adult life ever done, the Harvard Study of Adult Development.
For over 80 years, think about that, researchers followed hundreds of people from totally different backgrounds. We're talking Harvard kids and guys from the toughest neighborhoods in Boston. They tracked their health, their happiness, their jobs, their failures, everything.
And what they found basically turned everything we thought we knew about a good life completely upside down. All the things we chase, money, fame, a big career, nope, turns out they were just noise.
And there it is. That's the secret. It is that simple, and at the same time, that profound. The single biggest predictor of your happiness and health as you go through life is the quality of your relationships. It's the close connections that protect us from all the bumps in the road.
This quote from the study's director says it all. How happy you were in your relationships in your 50s was a better predictor of your physical health at 80 than your cholesterol levels were. Just let that sink in for a second. It's mind-blowing. And to put it even more bluntly, loneliness is a killer. The study found that being socially isolated is literally as bad for your physical health as smoking or alcoholism. It's not a weakness to need people, it's a biological fact. Tending to our relationships isn't just a nice thing to do, it's essential self-care.
Okay, so the secret is good relationships. Great. But we all know that knowing something and actually living it are two very, very different things. So how do we actually start building a life around what truly matters?
It all starts here, with effort. Remember that transformation scene we talked about at the beginning? Well, good relationships aren't magic either. They're built. They're built in the day-to-day, unglamorous moments of just showing up, of really listening, of choosing to forgive, of having the tough conversations.
So how do we do it? Here's the game plan. First, you got to stop trying to make everything last forever. Just accept that things change. It frees you up to actually be here now. Second, pay with your undivided attention. Find the little bit of wonder in the everyday moments with the people you care about. That is where the real connection happens. And third, master the art of effort. Just show up, especially on the ordinary days, because that's where life is actually lived.
And remember, these connections literally protect our brains from memory loss later in life. And here's the key thing. They don't have to be perfect all the time. They just have to be reliable. It's about knowing someone has your back. It's also about letting yourself be bored sometimes, because that's where creativity comes from. You just have to trust that all those small, consistent efforts add up, because it's the small days that build the big lives.
So this all leads us to a pretty radical new way of thinking about our purpose. If it's not about building a legacy, then what on earth is it all for?
I find this so freeing. You can't fight the universe. Nothing lasts forever. So just let go of that crushing pressure to be remembered for all time. Your goal was never to be eternal. It was just to be real, here, now.
And here's the big shift in thinking. The old goal was legacy, a static monument that survives you. The new goal is resonance. It's a ripple effect. It's about what changes because you were here. It's the kindness that shifts someone's day, the idea that sparks something in someone else. It's not about being remembered. It's about being real.
You know, when you decide to be real, to really connect with people, it means you're opening yourself up to the possibility of loss. And that's okay. That's not a tragedy. In fact, it's the ultimate proof that you really lived, that you loved, that you were brave enough to connect in a world where nothing is guaranteed.
Look, you can't outlast the song, but you absolutely can contribute your own unique verse while the music is still playing. So the real question isn't what you'll leave behind. The question is, knowing all of this, what are you going to do right now? What will your verse be?